What's up everybody? My name is Elliott, but you can call me the Motory Notary. And remember, the Corvette is the single greatest car that's ever been manufactured in the United States of America. And this, the C4, is the greatest of the greatest, and it's mine. And today I'm going to tell you why this car is the single greatest car that you can buy for just $10,000. Oh, hey there. I'm just doing what all of us Corvette owners love to do. Sit in front of our Corvettes in a lawn chair, reading a vet magazine, waiting for somebody to ask us about our Corvette, which you've just done by clicking on this video. So let me tell you about it. The C4 Corvette, or fourth generation Corvette, was manufactured from 1984 all the way to 1996. And if you know anything about car generations, that is a super duper long time. But it didn't go without its refreshes. From 1984 through about 1990, the car was very angular looking, very dated and 80s. But in 1991, it got an exterior refresh. And in 1992, to complement that exterior refresh, it got an all new motor. This car behind me is a 1992, and I think 92 through 96 is the pinnacle greatest era of the greatest generation of Corvette. And the fact that these cars can be had for at or around $10,000 makes it possibly one of the best car purchases you can make. Now, let me take you around my car and let me show you why I fell in love with this generation of Corvette. Starting off with what you notice about most cars first is the design, and the C4 has a quintessential 80s 90s coolness about it, meaning that it has a wedge shape. It starts off with a tapered triangular front end and it spreads all the way back, getting wider and wider and wider, all the way to kind of the squared off rear. Now that is a good looking classic design, and it kind of looks like a doorstop from the side. And in fact, in high school, when I went to make a model of one of these cars, I just took a doorstop, painted some Grand Sport stripes on it, and called it a day, because that's exactly what it looks like from the side profile. But more than just cool 80s, 90s design, I attribute this car to getting me into cars in the first place. This was the new Corvette at the time, and my dad had these when I was growing up, so it's really the first car that I remember getting excited about. I have very fond memories riding in the back hatch of one of these on the way to school with my sister in the front seat, and I always remember getting excited seeing a C4 on the road or seeing my dad pull up in the driveway after he got home from work. This is just a good classic design, and I think it holds up very well today. You know what it is the second you look at it. But more than just the pretty exterior, underneath this hood is the heartbeat of America. That was Chevy's slogan at the time. And let me open up this massive clamshell hood and show you. Wait, this thing is very heavy. Underneath that massive hood is the resurrection of the LT1 designation from 1970. But unlike the LT1 motor from 1970 making 370 horsepower, this all-new LT1 motor for 1992 made 300 horsepower. But you got to give them a break. This was the first real motor that was making any power ever since they learned how to deal with emissions, so it's still pretty good. But more on that, the LT1 motor uses an iron block and aluminum heads because this came from the time when Americans weren't afraid to mix metals. This is your ham and your turkey on the same sandwich, meaning this car makes 300 horsepower and about 330 pound-feet of torque. But this engine is about more than specs. It's also about presentation. See, that huge hood actually serves a design purpose. You open up the entire front end of this car when you lift that up. You see every single component. You see the entire tire. You see all of the suspension components. It looks like you can just crawl right into this engine bay. It's very race car-like. And the way the engine sits really far back, and it's got this really cool long intake tube running all the way to the front of the slanted radiator. The presentation when you open up the hood of a C4 is unlike anything else. Now, of course, most C4s were made with the LT1, but there were a few ZR1s, and that's a whole different kind of animal. That was a 405 horsepower dual overhead cam V8, which they never really did again, but those definitely can't be had for about $10,000. So 9 times out of 10, if you're looking at a C4, it's probably gonna have one of these. But the C4 is so much more than a pretty wedge shape and a well-packaged engine. It's also a really nice place to spend some time, if you can get in it, of course. Let me show you what I mean. So the C4 was the first Corvette designed with a space frame design, meaning every Corvette up until this point was body on frame. And the C4 engineers did a great job, except for in the ergonomics department of getting in and out of it. Now, it's got this giant sill, which means the process is you gotta dip one foot in and then kind of arrange your butt and kind of fall. And then you pick your other leg up and you put it in. And now you're in here. And it feels really cool. It feels like you're in this cockpit and you're very tight and it feels like you're part of the car, and you are, because if you look, my butt is actually below the body line of the car. Very race car-esque. But it leaves no footroom whatsoever, and getting out is just as much of a problem. And believe me, I've taken a few girls to prom in this car. Imagine this with a poofy dress. Not happening. Same process getting out, but in reverse. You gotta swing one leg out and over the sill, pivot your butt, put your other leg out, and then using both hands, or putting a hand on the A-frame, you gotta get it back up. And it's pretty much like you just got out of a supercar, except you don't have cool doors, and well, the car costs about $10,000. Even though I just got in and out and struggled with that, I'm gonna hop right back in onto the driver's side and show you all the cool futuristic stuff that you do get when you buy a C4. Let's check it out. All right, process is the same on the driver's side. Foot in, fall, foot swing, and now you're in. And once you're in, you'll notice, especially from that point of view, that this is an entirely driver-focused cockpit. They even kind of made this thing arch and turn and walled off the passenger from any of the controls anywhere. This is a very, don't touch this, this is my stuff, this is your stuff area. And by your stuff, you get a couple of vents and a glove box. But let me switch to handheld mode here and show you how cool these instruments are, especially for a car that's approaching 30 years old. All right, from the driver's point of view, you can see that this would have been so futuristic in 1992. Starting off with the center stack, you can see I did change this back in high school to a double din, but above that is something that would have been very, very fancy for the early 90s, automatic climate controls. Up here is where all of your check engine lights are. Now, of course, the engine's not on, so that's why it says service engine soon, and it's mad about the battery. But this is where all of your trouble codes would be displayed. It kind of looks like it would be a second screen, but it's just a really cool futuristic design. And then right here is where all of your computer buttons are to change the center display on your half digital, half analog gauge cluster. Now this is really cool. Now the C7 is kind of doing this now with the speedo being analog and everything else being digital. The speedometer is only available digitally, and everything else is kind of an auxiliary gauge because you also have that in here, and you can cycle through it, as you can see, with these buttons, and it will tell you all sorts of cool stuff. Anyway, moving on, to the left we have our headlight control and the coolest button here, the traction control. This was the first year of Corvette with traction control, and the coolest part is that the little button to turn it off is a Corvette doing a burnout. That is a cool attention to detail, and I love, love, love it. But this is the coolest part. So right here, you got your headlights, and everybody loves pop-up headlights. On the C4, they don't just pop up, they flip all the way around, which is extra, extra cool. So let me show you out here. Look at that. How neat is that? They flip all the way around, and then when they're done, oh, so neat. Now, you can see, like I said, from back here, this is what you're looking at. It's a complete fighter jet style cockpit, and it's absolutely awesome. This car is a 6-speed manual, which is pretty rare on these cars, but this is the only way I would have it, complete with the best shape shift knob that I think is available. So I've established that the C4 is good looking, has a powerful motor, and is a pretty great place to spend some time. But my absolute favorite feature of the car is this right here, the roof. And you might think, what's so great about that? Well, it comes off, making any C4 coupe a complete convertible. Let me show you how. It's pretty easy. Inside the center console here is a little wrench. It even says Corvette on it, and it's got a star bit. And at each corner of this roof is a star head bolt. So with just a few twists and turns of this wrench, this whole roof comes off and is stored in the back. Now let me show you how simple and easy it is to pop off your C4 roof. So you get the roof off, and in later Corvettes they made these a lot lighter, and you kind of do this without touching the paint. Now you can kind of just slide it into place, which is pretty great. Look at that, boom. Super, super simple and not at all physically exhausting to remove the roof and completely transform your C4. And that looks really, really cool. I still stand by that. Before I set off though, I do want to show you that little switch. It's really cool right here. So it shows a picture of you popping the hatch of a Corvette open, but there's also a cool arcade button in here to do the same thing. And ready for this big bang? Man, it pops open with such authority. So now you can actually see what I was working with just a second ago. But yeah, it's in there, it's locked. Well, there we go, now it's locked in and we are ready to drive. Let's take our now Corvette Coupe convertible out for a test drive. All right, that is how you drive a car that hasn't really been driven for about a year. It's called the American break-in. All right, in all seriousness though, how does the C4 drive? And the answer is remarkably well, especially this one. This one's been sitting for over a year, and I expected it to kind of have a check engine light or have a problem or feel a little looser than I remember it, but it doesn't. It feels just as tight as it did when I had it in high school. This is an incredibly well-built car, and the fact that these can be had for at or around $10,000 just speaks volume to them as well. And every time I get in this car, I always wonder, how come it's been so long since I've driven this thing? And I'm having that moment right now. Now, let's get on it a little bit here. Oh my goodness, that feels considerably faster than I remember it feeling. It's safe to say it's still got it. Oh my goodness, coming through that turn. Lots of grip still, even with the top off. Brakes on this one are not so good. I'll give it that. It's got like 2 pistons up front and single pistons in the rear. And on top of that, mine feel rock hard. But I still stopped. So, you know, consider that a win. Ride quality, astonishing. It's very comfortable, yet the steering is heavy, so you feel sporty. And not to mention, just looking, the sight picture out of the driver's window is a sports car. You're looking at this hood that is what seems like 16 feet long. In fact, the hood disappears in front of you. You can't see the last 3 feet of the hood. It just goes away, and you just know, well, there's a lot more car in front of me. I hope I don't hit anything. But it also gives you the feeling you're sitting at the back of the car right over the rear wheels, which is exactly how you should feel. Now sure, the car is a little bit looser with the top off, but on a 76-degree night like this, well, I'll take some flexibility in exchange for how awesome the open air feel is. It's so cool to have both kind of a coupe and a convertible in the same package. I mean, this is, I'm telling you, I've driven a lot of cars, I've driven a lot of cheap cars. This is absolutely unbeatable for the money. Yes, there are LS1 Camaros and there's stuff like that for around this money, or at least there used to be before the pandemic type pricing. But this is the full real deal. This is a real sports car. It actually handles really well, and it's got more than enough power to keep up with everything modern on the road. But the cherry on top is that this car will also get 30 miles to the gallon on the highway. Yes, 30, and I've averaged that myself. Now that is Honda-like fuel economy in a car with 300 horsepower and that's capable of doing stuff like this. Whew. It stirred a little bit there. I don't still have it like I did in high school. C4 is an easy car to hate from an outside perspective, but man, is it an easy car to fall in love with once you actually drive one, especially one of these refresh models. This is easily the best car you can buy for at or around $10,000. Now, unfortunately, I gotta put it away. It's getting dark. So that's the C4. It's a great looking wedge-shaped, powerful V8, comfortable place to be. And heck, let's face it, it's a freaking Corvette. And all of that can be had for the low, low price of $10,000 or less. And to top it all off, the top comes off, meaning that you get the open air driving experience of a convertible, but all of the benefits of the coupe. That Targa top is really awesome. And believe me, if you show up to a small town gas station with the top off in your C4 Corvette, you're gonna be one hot ticket item. That's going to do it for today though, guys. I appreciate you guys watching as always. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. I always try to post a little preview of upcoming videos there. Follow me on Facebook. Join my Facebook group. It's a fun place to share memes, and I'm always in there interacting in the comments. And other than that, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe on this video. And this time, I'd like you to let me know where you're from in the comments. I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling this summer, and you never know when I might be in your area. So I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you guys. And now I will see you guys on the next video. Well, there's always enough room when you just... And it's got an iron block but aluminum heads. This came from the time when Americans weren't afraid to mix alloys. I don't know what I'm going with that. I kind of want to leave that though. I don't know.